Welcome back to Fast Market here on the TD Ameritrade Network. Let's bring in our next guest for our cash tag segment. That's going to be Andy Swan, the co-founder of LikeFolio. Welcome back to the show, Andy.
Thank you.
All right, so we're talking beauty and health. We're talking Ulta. You know, I was going through some of their competitors in this space. Estee Lauder sold off. It's down 22% so far this month post earnings. But now we're seeing a pop in E.L.F. Beauty after their report last night. I mean, when you take a look at this segment, you know, Ulta just off all-time highs that it hit at the beginning of May, but it's fallen pretty significantly this month.
Yeah, it has pretty good pullback over the last month, and you know, according to LikeFolio data, which was really good on E.L.F, we kind of nailed that one, feeling good about that going into today. And then you know, you've got Ulta coming up, and I think what we're seeing on Ulta is that the fall over the last month in the stock price is likely very justified. You know, in times of economic uncertainty, there's something called the lipstick index. I know we've talked about it on this show with you guys before over the last 6 to 8 months. The lipstick index, Estee Lauder chairman put that out really almost a century ago, I believe, and it talks about how during times of economic distress, you know, lipstick cosmetics can become somewhat of a luxury item for women who can't spend as much as they normally would on accessories or clothes. And so a lot of times cosmetics do very well during times of economic uncertainty. And I think that's what's happening now. So as a whole, we think the sector is very strong. We saw that in E.L.F. We see that in Sephora data, but what we don't see is that really translating that well into Ulta. We think Ulta is kind of treading water here, you know, riding this tailwind in terms of overall makeup and cosmetics demand, but really falling behind competitors. And we see that very, very clearly when we put them head to head against Sephora. And so that's not what you want to see out of a company like Ulta, which has been a big winner you know, in the past and has been a really great company. But I think the level of experience that people are getting at these two outlets or these two stores is very different. And like we've talked about with you guys on this show many times, it is the higher end experience that seems to be doing a much better job with consumers in this environment, and that is clearly Sephora versus Ulta. And so we think overall, you know, the makeup sector is strong. You know, we like the lipstick index factor in all of this, but Ulta as a standalone company seems to be falling behind the competition. And I think it's going to be tough for them to put out anything other than, you know, a slower growth type of outlook.
You know, Andy, we connect the dots often between Ulta and Target and Sephora and Kohl's that just had a really good, surprising earnings that in many ways was dominated by Sephora. And they talked about new investments in Sephora. So that was really an impressive part of theirs. But when we move over to Ulta, you know, there was a Gen Z report for top 50 companies for Gen Zers. This came in 19th. Ulta Beauty came in 19th, ahead of Starbucks, ahead of Instagram, ahead of TikTok in terms of Gen Zers. So this is an incredibly popular company with Generation Z, 40 million Ultimate Rewards members, and that's where they make 95% of their money. This is, I agree with it makes sense, the data that you're giving us. But my question is, knowing what we know about the loyalty of these customers and the fact that once they go there, it seems like their data says they join the rewards program when they go there. And when you look, this is a significant sell-off in this stock. I mean, I understand weakness, but this stock is sold off. Is it priced in, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, you know, I think it probably is priced in. Overall, we're neutral going into this report, which is disappointing given, you know, our bullishness on the cosmetic sector overall. You know, but this stock has fallen for good reason. We think it's priced about right. You know, If anything, I think the risk is probably further to the downside, just because, if you're not doing great in retail right now, you seem to be getting thrown out. But I do think you bring up a good point about the generational shift and that younger generation and the loyalty that they may have to Ulta. That may prove to be stronger than we think, stronger than our data is showcasing. That's certainly a possibility. We saw that, with Abercrombie this morning and yesterday. We didn't see that coming either, but so sometimes we miss, and sometimes that's a reason why. And you bring up a really good point there. If we have a blind side at LikeFolio on a retail name like Ulta, it's probably because they're going significantly younger and very loyal clients. So Ulta has that going for them. So that's a caveat to our, slightly bearish or neutral take on the stock going into earnings.
Yeah, and Kevin mentioned the Kohl's and Sephora matchup where they're in about half of the Kohl's stores. That really helped them because Sephora sales were up. Is that maybe the caveat to this earnings report that because Target came out during their earnings conference call and stated that health and beauty did really well. They didn't really name Ulta, but they said it was doing well. Is that the caveat maybe for the upside on a stock like this where, hey, it's pulled back 12%, still up 37% from year-ago levels?
Yeah, I think the caveat is that it's pulled back 12%, in a strong, sector, in the cosmetic sector. A pullback in a strong sector with a tailwind is usually a pretty good thing. It's just when we start to see a competitive flip, like we're seeing with Sephora kind of overtaking Ulta, being the higher end, the better experience in terms of, the consumer insights that we see, that's normally a yellow or red flag for us. And it's just one where we kind of just stay away and see how things go and listen to the conference call and see what we can glean from that, perhaps for other companies, perhaps for some other retailers in the sector.
All right, great stuff. As always, neutral with your data on Ulta into these results. Appreciate it, Andy.
Thank you.
All right.